Let the magic rise.
You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Folks, a very big welcome. The latest political films and
Can't hear you, dude.
coming to you. Oh God, no, not again. Oh, you can't hear me.
Well, yeah, a little bit. You seem a bit sort of distant.
Very distant. Oh.
Well, that's just emotional distance, Pierce.
Hey.
It's been a hard holiday season.
I can't hear you. You hear the theme tune? Couldn't you even hear the theme tune?
Yeah, no, we could hear that, but you were sort of a muffled, drowned out.
Piers, what about now?
Yeah, no, we can hear you now. That's fine. Yeah.
So you couldn't hear the theme tune?
No, we could hear the theme tune. It was just you talking over the theme tune was a bit sort of like.
Yeah, you know what? I tell you, I'm just going to do it again. I'm going to get this right.
Absolutely.
Your weekly wrap on the latest political spills and esoteric thrills. Coming to you from Europe with me, Ollie Connolly in Spain, and him, Piers Garnham in England. We've got Gary Branson too, dissecting Californian chickens and talking Trump. And we've got Andi Reiss in England and Tazeen Ahmad later on. Yo, 10 at night here in Valencia. It's barely lunchtime in LA. It's past supper in London. Piers, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. How are you?
Oh, man, I'll tell you, I'm tired.
Why? What's the wife been doing to you, man? Has she been putting you through the mill?
Oh, now, Piers. Okay. I've got this wired up wrong.
Yeah. Now he works it out. You see,
Okay, it's not a problem, but I have to be careful with the
flick your knobs and up the whistles and basically do whatever it takes to
I'll tell you what. Hold on. If I do this and I do this, now talk to me.
Yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool.
I
can hear you loud and clear. I think Gary can too. It's just
I can hear him just fine. Nothing quite like live on air production meetings. There's nothing more classically entertainment than that.
Ollie's wonderful intro that was anyway.
Another buggered intro. Yeah, sure. So
where have you been the last week?
What do you think? Should we have that be like kind of our regular shtick, is to not be able to get the intro right? I think that could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, sort of like failing to get an erection.
Thank you. Yeah, that's lovely. We're not going to go there. So, Andi, are you there?
Listen, I don't want to talk about erections or Donald Trump, okay, in that order, if that's okay. But guys, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Good to have you back, dude. Great to have you back.
Tazeen, are you there?
I'm here and I will pass on questions tonight. That's okay. But Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. That's lovely. We're not going to discuss erections with you, I promise. But Piers, he can be quite outrageous. But no, we will bring you on in about 20 minutes and discuss something a bit more serious. Sorry, I'm just lowering the tone. Piers, what is going on now in London? May sets out vision for Brexit. What's going on?
Well, yeah. I mean, like, I just don't buy it, really. I mean, like, I just, it's just a lot of posturing and talk, and I just think May is just a bit of a damp squib. I think the complexity of Brexit is the problem at hand. We were so heavily woven into the fabric of the EU that now that the British public have voted to leave, they don't really know how to do it. I mean, the problem is that there are so many arrangements between the big dicks, if you like, that where you scratch my back, I scratch yours. We'll do business with each other, and we'll never mind the rest type of thing.
Well, hold on a sec. Yeah, I mean, this deal with the civil service in particular. I mean, this is an interesting thing, yeah, because we've got a transition going on in the US with Trump, and so he's bringing in about 4,000 people to run the country. And that is what they do in the US. That's the civil service, and it changes every administration. In the UK, we have a civil service that is, well, I mean, it's practically got the status of royalty. And these mandarins are trying to call the shots and one thing that's quite interesting is very, very few of them would have voted for Brexit. And yet, these are the people that are supposed to be steering it through. Now, that is a kind of a bit of a conundrum, no?
Well, yeah, absolutely. It's a bit of a kind of oxymoron, really. I mean, we had the guy, the head diplomat for Europe, what's his name? The kind of what are they called?
The ambassador.
Ambassador. That's the word I was looking for.
But he's similar. Yeah.
Kind of like
that
Brussels,
British
you mean,
mastery of the Queen's English.
Yeah,
that's the
yeah. He's the guy in charge of steering Brexit so far as the civil service is concerned.
Well, he's gone and resigned, and he was very scathing in his report, about how we're going to move forward with the whole thing. I mean, look, he is a Europhile, and he was in charge of taking Britain through Brexit. I mean, it's ridiculous. And so now this new guy, apparently, I don't know whether he's a Europhile or what, but at least he's supposed to be pragmatic. I don't know. That's what I read. It's probably rubbish. But we've got to try. Though these people, by and large, are very Europhile, and Britain, for whatever reason, has decided to go Brexit, and that's there's a contradiction here. Yeah. I mean, I'd like to say that I don't think it has anything to do with immigration at all. My understanding of this philosophy of Brexit has got nothing to do with immigration or multiculturalism. I think that's a misnomer, and that has been heavily publicized in the British press.
It is, but it should be. But
it shouldn't. I mean, we do live in a multicultural society. That's not going to change. However, I think the majority of people voted for Brexit because of financial reasons. I mean, they've seen the corruption within the world of finance and the cronyistic approach to finance. How, I mean, let's face it, all the politicians are shareholders in all these major European companies. They're all absolutely on the gravy train. And this is what I think people have ultimately objected to. I mean, the press have gone on and on about, border control and all the rest of it. And that does play a part, but I don't think that's the predominant reason why people voted.
It's an issue now. I mean, the Berlin Christmas attack was terrible. And,
I mean,
that we do need to screen people to protect people that are here.
Well, yes. I mean, we live it. This is
going to be an interesting evening because
it will be because we've got somebody who knows a bit more about it than probably any of us. But I mean, it's sort of on board and listening. So
Andi knows a bit too.
If I can interject here and introduce Taz to the scenario. I mean, Taz has been involved in the refugee crisis for the past year, essentially, and she spent the summer filming in numerous places.
No, I'm sorry. You're jumping the gun. You're jumping the gun. We're going to get to Taz. But first, I want to talk Trump. And Gary, I want to call you in, mate, and I want to talk Trump with you. Because what's going on over there?
Yes, I am here. Sorry, I was looking for Now, I want to also talk a little bit about what you guys have just been talking about with the Brexit administrative duties. So you're telling me that the people who are going to be in charge of shepherding Britain through the Brexit process are against the Brexit process?
Yes.
By and large?
Civil service, yes. By and large, yes.
How in the name of Zeus's hairy manhole cover is that going to work out well?
Exactly. That is the story this week in the UK and therefore in Europe, really.
Basically, they've been forced to do something democratic for the first time in decades, and they don't know how to handle it. I mean, it's like democracy is a lovely idea that we all kind of somehow have been fooled into believing is true. But ultimately, if we don't vote the way they want us to vote, then it causes incredible difficulty. I mean, like.
And indeed, the very reason why Sir Ivan Rogers, resigned, because he knew that he was being rogered if he had to take on this job.
I mean, he was really stuck between in a hard place.
Indeed.
Well, at the end of the day, he's clearly thought this is way above my pay grade. I can't deal with this. This is something that's going to be so complex and difficult. I don't want to have to be a part of this. I'd rather go home and watch kiddie porn or something. I mean, like I don't know what he
or his career aspirations, one of the two. But he was going to have to forego his EU pension, which he probably would have ended up with, like the Kinnocks or something. I don't know. Anyway, Gary, so with Trump, on the other hand, there is a transition, and this transition is it's
going swimmingly. Let's see, Houston billionaire and host of CNBC's billion-dollar buyer Tillman Fertitta.
Yes,
just went on MSNBC. And the exact quote that he gave regarding Trump and Trump's refusal to actually put all of his business holdings into an actual blind trust,
right, was
such that he could not abuse his authority as leader of the free world to benefit himself financially in an even more direct way than everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
This guy says, and I quote, "Hey, he's the president-elect, okay? He's going to have conflicts of interest. That's why we elected him president, because he's a true chief executive officer, and he knows how to tell people what to do. It's his business. It's a family business. A blind trust means you have a trustee that can just sell it. It's never happening. Get used to his little conflicts." Get used to his little conflicts of interest.
Hold on. Who was it that said that?
Billionaire.
Yeah.
Tillman Fertitta.
Right. And he's doing what?
Tillman Fajita. Can you eat him with chili sauce? I mean, like, I hear Trump's going to move ahead with the wall as well, which I think is absolutely hilarious. I mean, I know it'll provide a lot of people with jobs, but if that's for crying out loud, man. I mean, what the hell's he doing?
Is that it though? Come on. I mean, there's more than that. What about Elon Musk? Now that's a really interesting association. He wants to have him as his science guru, his space advisor on his.
Now that is something I'm on board with.
That's good news, eh?
Yeah. Elon Musk is, to my best understanding, a force for good in this world.
Yeah.
He founded SpaceX, so he went on the Daily Show and explained the reason why he founded SpaceX. And the reason he founded SpaceX and is trying to help humanity get off this rock is that he does not want to see the light of consciousness extinguished in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's very much on the same page as Stephen Hawking then, because Hawking's been saying very similar things. Stephen Hawking was quoted saying, we need to get off planet Earth before the elite destroy it. And he was quoted as saying that. So he's very much on the same page as Musk. It's going to be interesting to see whether his new launch, which is impending and imminent, won't end in the same kind of disaster that the last one did, where that UFO flew over and blew it up. I don't know what cargo.
Well, speaking of UFOs and Stephen Hawking, you heard that Stephen Hawking was telling us that we need to actually beware of broadcasting our location to any other consciousnesses in the universe, because they will come and eat us, basically.
That's right.
That's basically what he's saying.
That's what humans have done to humans for time immemorial. And so why should, aliens be any different?
Well, yeah, we can get into this, but I don't want to right now. But it's like
that's right. We could, Piers. You could.
I could, yeah, no, definitely. But
tonight's show. We can't.
Now that's
there.
The Guardian.
At some point, I will actually go down that rabbit hole with you.
Okay, cool.
That'll be a lot of fun.
Maybe we should do that soon. Okay, right.
All right.
Andy, what do you think is going on with Brexit? I mean, do you think the Brexit will happen before the EU implodes?
I think the point here, Ollie, is we really have to remember what Theresa May said. Brexit means Brexit. And I think that it'll happen. And I think that Ivan Rogers' resignation is formidable. I think it's going to have to go ahead. It'll go down in history as one of the most ridiculous elements of European politics, but it has to happen, and she will do that.
It sounds as though the big bargaining chip now is the single market, and the EU. They've been saying, well, you can have that, but only if you allow free movement of people in the same way that the other 26 countries or 27 countries of the EU do. 26.
But she's going to find it very hard to negotiate.
She said, apparently today, she sets out a vision for Brexit. According to the Daily Builder graph, she's saying that she is prepared to pull Britain out of the single market if the UK is not given full control of its borders.
She will find that tough. She will find that very tough.
Tough now. She is. She seems to be playing tough, taking a line. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to bring in our guest because I want to hear a very different perspective on all this sort of stuff. And so we've got Tazeen Ahmad, who has been making a documentary with Andi, actually, and her work background is completely different. It was in financial broadcasting with credits from Merrill to Bloomberg. And funnily enough, I used to work there too, but I digress. She is a mother of two and an activist. She set up Humanity's Heart to witness, share, and connect in the refugee crisis. And she's now going to tell us what that means. Tazeen.
Good evening.
Wait. Yeah, she's there. Hey, well, I mean, I built you up, so you better be worth it.
Oh no, she is. Don't worry, she is.
So
tell us a bit about yourself, Tazeen. Give us a bit of your précis.
Tell us a bit about this documentary, Tazeen, that you've done with Andi.
I think I'll tell you what triggered my decision or choice to turn up. Ironically, Brexit, which we've heard quite a bit about this evening, was one of the catalysts. Yeah. The murder of
Joe Cox,
MP, same age as myself, also a mother of two.
That. American audience won't know who she is.
So she was a British MP who campaigned aggressively for the rights for Syrian refugees. She stood for diversity, she stood for multiculturalism, and her shock murder, which...
In her constituency office?
Yes, in her constituency by Thomas Mayer, I believe. Her murder actually, it made me wake up. And I remember feeling...
You hadn't been an activist before then?
I think I'd been an unconscious, on some level, activist, but not a spiritual activist or a pro-activist in the way that last year I felt a huge crisis within myself and the world around me.
Yeah, a lot of Brits did, eh? And a lot of Americans as well. And a lot of folks around the world in different places, huh?
I think if we break down, if I come back to Jo Cox and what she represented,
please.
She, to me, represented inclusivity, feminism, motherhood. She was creative. As Rumi says, women are creative, not created. She represented fairness, equality. And leaders like her, I believe, we need in abundance of. And yet, you know, she died or was murdered at the age of 40 for doing good and actually feeling myself quite aligned in what she stood for. I remember feeling this tremendous shock of what is this world? I mean, you know, this is 2017 now that we live in. We feel quite evolved as a species. And coming from India, I'm used to hearing about political deaths, say in India, but not really here in the UK. The only experience I remember of it was with the Sinn Féin.
Erin Neve.
And, you know, the IRA.
Blown up in his car.
What part of India are you from?
Mumbai.
Oh, I worked in Mumbai for 6 months a few years back in 2008. Loved it, actually. Amazing city. It sort of slaps you around the chops when you first turn up, but you kind of you get sort of absorbed into the fray, and the color and the richness and the people are just fantastic. I was working for a bank out there. I've bored the boys rigid with this before, but and I'm not going to bore you with it now either. But yeah, I like Mumbai and I love India, and I'd love to spend more time in India. There's a real the people there are wonderful, actually, and a lot of them have very little, but they'll give you their all, and I love the country, actually. I know a lot of people have said that in the past, and
yes, that's lovely. Andy,
I'm here.
About your association with Tazeen.
Well, Taz just came to me with this project, and
it's great, but yeah, Andy, please.
And it was just something that was really, really close to my heart and my premise, and I thought what she'd done was extraordinary. I mean, she essentially gave us 100 hours of footage to make into a series of documentaries, and the great thing about what Taz has done is it comes from a very personal perspective. It's not diluted with media spin or fake news. It's real, and that's why I think what Taz has done and what we've done is really quite impactful.
Tazeen, tell me, please, how did you come by that footage? What did you do? Where did you take that?
As I explained with the inspiration from Jo Cox, I kind of felt, and it's ironic that you mentioned India and the level of poverty that you touched on before, because the second thing that really hit me was, you see, I feel last year was an awakening for humanity, and I genuinely, in my heart, believe this. I feel what we're seeing or witnessing is a crisis of consciousness. Everything you've been talking about this evening, Brexit, Trump, and where we've got to politically, all represent votes on fears. Fear representing the false evidence against reality. And I feel what really motivated me outside of Jo Cox, sorry, and I will come to it in a sec.
Tazeen,
Calais.
We'll have to debate that, but carry on.
It was Calais and the poverty and the extreme conditions that a certain, 10,000 people were living in. when the Calais camp, the jungle, was still going.
Yeah.
And what happened was very much me feeling I'm living in this affluent part of the UK. I live in Surrey. And I just felt the washed up images that we were seeing of Syrian boys like Aylan Kurdi and all the other refugees. There was a disconnect. There was a disconnect between how much we in the first world and the West actually have, and yet these fears that are perpetrating how little we have, how we don't have enough money, economics, that we can't even absorb 10,000 and give them dignity in basic living conditions. And in fact, their living conditions remind me of the sort of poverty that you do experience in third world countries or developing nations.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Plus, we've gone in and bombed the crap out of where they're from as well, and caused a lot of the problems that have led to the migratory crisis that we face now. You know, we are largely responsible for this, and yet we refuse to take responsibility for it. It's a huge dichotomy. And the press, I'm afraid, and the mainstream media don't help. You know, they want to do is
Pierce, it's very expensive to go and bomb the holy living bejesus out of third world countries. You can't expect us to actually pay to house a pathetic number of people after we've spent all this money bombing them, can you?
Good point.
Come on.
I mean, how much would it cost to house 10,000 people compared to 10 Stinger missiles or cruise missiles? You know, I mean,
just because the cost of one F-35 jet could house all of these people in the lap of luxury virtually for the remainder of their natural lives does not mean that we can afford to do this.
That's a very valid point, Gary, but there's no money to be made in housing refugees, is there? This is the thing. I mean, you know, let's face it, the British government make an enormous amount of money selling arms
possibly for the private prison industry. They might be able to make money off of these.
Whoa. Hang on just 1 second, guys. As Taz will now allude, the actual practicalities in terms of percentage is actually quite extraordinary. The UK, Taz.
Exactly. So, I mean, I'm going to ask you guys, what do you think is the percentage that here in the West we've actually taken in of refugees?
Well, overall percentage, very small, I should imagine, less than 2%, I should think, or 1%, or a fraction of 1%.
Well below 1%, it's got to be.
Well, I'll tell you, I had a guest on 3 weeks ago, Thomas Lethcano, who's working on this kind of stuff, and he told me that Spain had taken in last year 46. 46. That's the official. That's the official figure. I'm sure. I know.
That's a country that had the Moors living there and ruling the country for a very long time. You know, I mean, like
800 years. Yeah.
There have been a series of invasions all over the place. We know that. But yes, 46 in Germany. I think the figure is about 1 million or 1.2. It depends on who you believe. In Britain, I think it's about 300,000, but that is not refugees. That's just immigration generally from Europe. Last year, I think it was about 375,000, something like that in the UK.
But what percentage, Ollie, Taz, to reveal? Yeah.
So what I was
in terms of Taz, in terms of Syria, way too few. I'll tell you something else though, also that should be said as we banter about these statistics. For example, Saudi Arabia has taken none.
Well, hang on. Whoa.
Yeah.
Hang on.
What my point here is that this is a global issue that we should all be talking about and taking responsibility for. But I also, Taz, you asked a bit of a question there, and I want to just tangent on that slightly to say that whilst, I completely agree, we need to take our responsibility for the refugee crisis, whether we created it or not. But also equally, I think we should be debating, why have we got this crisis? And to me, that is twofold. It's war profiteering that we, the citizenry, allow to go on. That's the first one. And the second one is unfair trade. And I'll give you a good example of that. The EU. It's a trade protectionist racket. And so, for example, farmers in Africa are screwed. And then we have them under our influence in various ways. And so this question it's a deeper question to me. It's not just the problem now, it's the root cause. And how do we solve that? And that's my question to you.
I think what you've touched on is really interesting, because I think responsibility, and I think why last year was such an awakening for many, is the realization that actually we're all responsible for each other. Yeah. And it is that simple. In terms of the actual statistics, so according to UNHCR and their official statistics, Europe has hosted less than 6% of the total refugee population. And it's countries in the Middle East, such as Lebanon, Jordan, who have taken a disproportionate amount.
Yeah,
Lebanon,
I can believe that.
1.25 million is the population of Lebanon.
Yeah.
4 million is the population. They've taken in 1.25 million. In the last 2 years, 25% of the Lebanese population are now Syrian refugees. And let's not forget, Lebanon was also the biggest takers of Palestinian refugees back in the 40s.
That's a huge statistic.
That's absolutely massive.
Right. And Lebanon's one of the countries that I was privileged enough to go into and film. And it's exactly what you guys were talking about earlier. It's these questions that kept arising, these disconnects, what we're fed in the media, to really questioning and wondering what is the actual reality on the ground.
Taz, did you go and see those Syrian refugee women who put on that play in the West End? They did a very short run, but I went with a girlfriend, and it was basically literally just a bunch of Syrian refugee women who had created and devised a show. And they had screens up subtitling what they were saying, because very few of them actually spoke English. But it was extremely moving because it really was from the horse's mouth about why they'd come to the UK and the fact that actually they loved their home country and wanted to go back. But the reality was they're not, because it's so bloody dangerous over there. Did you see that, or?
Yes. It was, I think, the Trojan Horse, and I didn't see it. I met the producer of it, but the timing didn't work out, because it was the time that I was getting ready to go to film for the documentary. So sadly, I missed the window when they were.
Yeah, no, it was very moving, actually. I didn't, I turned up with a completely open mind, not knowing what to expect, and actually I was very moved by what they had to say, and the pride they have in their home nation, and the fact that they find themselves in the UK not because they want to be here, but because they had no choice, and that actually, when things have calmed down, they reveled about the opportunity to go back and rebuild and create a new Syria and all the rest of it. Did you get into Syria with your documentary making?
No, I did not. Not into Syria. Getting into Syria is virtually impossible. The risk that you take is too grave. We got close to Syria when we filmed in Lebanon. We went to one of the refugee camps fairly close to the border, but we didn't go to Syria. But if I could make 2 comments on what you've just shared. First of all, I'm a Muslim. I'm a Muslim woman. And what I've seen happen to the name and face of Islam has been really upsetting, to be perfectly honest. And another trigger for me to turn up was actually to go find out for myself, are all these people terrorists, and are they all bloody migrants? I'm the daughter of a migrant. My father came over in the 1970s from India. He wanted a better life for his children. And where have we started to differentiate between what is a migrant and what is a refugee? Surely those who leave and are forced to leave their countries due to atrocities and wars, they have rights. They have rights from the rest of us to be housed and to be looked after. And many of the scriptures, the Quran, the Torah, the Bible, all hold a space and place of how we honour and help refugees. And so part of who we interviewed for this work were actually spiritual leaders, rabbis, sheikhs, priests, to kind of understand what this human crisis means for the heart. The second, as you alluded to in the play, is about the role of women. I mean, these wars happen, and it's the women, many of whom the home is their sacred space. So they're forced to leave, and they suffer two levels of trauma. The first level is they're forced to leave a country they love. The second, they're forced to enter new countries which feel so alien and foreign. And it's interesting you were talking about aliens earlier, because really they feel like aliens. They don't speak the language. And for them, many of them don't necessarily, given the cultural communities that they've grown up in, where the woman's place is the place at home, and that's where she gets her pride, that's where she gets her essence, her whole space of being. Lots of the Syrians, yes, are educated and they have money, but lots of them who are also leaving come from a certain class where women traditionally stay at home and look after the home.
Okay.
And they have to then recreate.
Hold on. I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
What is going on? What is the truth behind Syria? Why is there any war at all, let alone all the ramifications of it, all the different groups? Why is there any war going on there at all? Can you please explain that from your perspective? Because you know what? I don't know the truth. I don't know who does, but it seems to me that you've been fairly well placed to have an idea. So if you could give us your opinion on that, then that would be useful.
And be honest. I mean, like I personally believe a lot of the wars in the Middle East are Western oriented. You know, they create the war. They fund and sponsor the terrorists in order to create the chaos. You know, if you believe the same thing, then say so, because that's what I believe. I mean, like
no, just Piers, shut up.
I feel concerned about the level of mind control that we have today. I feel concerned about how difficult it is to know truth. I don't have the answers, I'll be honest. I just met the people on the ground, those who are touched at a direct level by the wars.
I know there are different factions of Islam that exist in Syria, and if you go from city to city, then the animosity between various districts and areas, you know, within the firmament of Syria or any given, Islamic state can be difficult because of the different factions of the same faith. And I know that is an issue within Syria itself. However,
well, I got to say, Tazeen, I think Piers had a good point before. What he was saying about what is the truth about these wars? Why is there so much chaos in Syria? Why did what happened in Libya happen in Libya? And indeed, we know about Iraq. Why the hell isn't Tony Blair in a dungeon under The Hague? We are not addressing the crux of the matter. That's the thing that frustrates the hell out of me.
But I think
these are the questions we need to hold, and I think these are the questions that do need to be asked.
And I think if I can interject,
what's the difference between ISIS and the Ku Klux Klan? One's ISIS and one's white ISIS, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, but
it's all mad zealotry.
They both represent.
And is maintained. It's contained. It's not an issue. ISIS is an issue. It's wiped out. You know, practically entire towns in Syria. But not alone. And indeed, personally, we know it's been funded by Saudi Arabia, by Qatar, that they've been sponsoring it. And at the same time, Saudi Arabia, for example, is funding Hillary Clinton with the Clinton Foundation. Qatar's giving Bill $1 million bung, on his birthday. You mentioned earlier about, for example, people, voting for Trump. And believe you me, I believe that a lot of people voted for Trump and voted for Brexit, frankly, for the wrong reasons, yeah? However, a lot of people also, I think, voted because they just are desperate that the existing leaders are so corrupt that they allow all this war profiteering basically to go on, and they're desperate for change. And whether they get that or not is another question. But you know,
Ollie?
I do find the choice of leaders that are presented kind of interesting.
yeah, I think you're right.
Why?
Interesting in the Chinese definition of the term.
May you live in interesting times.
It's false choices is what we're getting in the Western world and probably all over the place, but most notably and having the broadest impact is what's happening over here on Western soil. Yeah, we had a shot at somebody who would have been much better than we currently have, and might have actually instituted a sea change in American foreign policy.
Crying over Bernie Sanders, bless him.
I know.
I think just coming back to what I can share with you from having done the filming through Lebanon, Greece, Calais last year, what we started to realise through all of this is how humanity is very, very much alive. And actually, that's why we had this huge awakening, because seeing those images of the washed up bodies, you know, it's when you see the common person touched and facing death that you can't help but be moved and start to question and go into deeper curiosities.
I mean, there are obvious. The press have obviously, the mainstream media have been all over this. The fact that there've been all these sort of, you know, kind of molestations and all this sort of stuff. The reason for that is because of the, you know, I mean, I think it's been highly overblown in the media, because obviously they like to be hyperbolic and look at these isolated cases and blow them out of proportion. But I mean, the you know, at the end of the day, you've got a lot of young people from a radically different faith and culture, where, you know, they're not used to being in a Western society where things are far more liberal and open, you know, kind of where women don't dress as conservatively as they do where they're from and all the rest of it. And you know, I mean, there are obviously going to be difficulties from a cultural and you know, perspective that will cause friction. But okay,
hold on, you're talking about shades of Muslim, really, aren't you? Or rather, you're talking about different doctrines almost, no?
Just talking about differences in culture, you know, that when you slam dunk a large contingent of peoples together who are from radically different backgrounds, it's going to cause difficulty. But I mean, but that doesn't supplant the need for.
And I think that's what was.
No, hold on. Let me illustrate here. Yeah, I'm looking at this Skype picture of Tazeen, and her picture. Well, I would be. Let me pull up Skype. Okay, and she's looking very pretty, in a wine bar. I can tell she's in a wine bar because there are bottles of wine behind her. Now,
doesn't mean to say she's having a drink there.
No, it doesn't mean that she's having a drink, but she's a more liberal Muslim than some Muslims in Europe. And
but Tazeen's being born and brought up in the UK, so you know.
No, I'm not. Whoa! What I'm saying is that there are shades of every culture. You know, there are. And in terms of political belief and how much you believe, and in what you believe. Whatever it is, and it could be a religion. And with what we're seeing at the moment, we're seeing if you like the perfect storm in Europe, for example, where on the one hand we've got war creating the problem, blowing people out of their homes. They've got to go somewhere. Some people, on the other hand, are latching onto this for their own malfeasance and indeed, many of us that listen to this radio station would agree, are being funded by some very dodgy characters that don't give a damn about Muslims, Christians, or anybody else.
Oh, but Islam is a faith of peace.
but my point. Whoa.
Yeah.
Well, can I just say? I just wanted to make the point that there are extremes in all these different well, whatever cultures really. And that is, I think we're talking about extremes of culture as opposed to, mainstream culture. Tazeen, your picture, yeah, you're not wearing a veil or anything like that. You're a very westernized Muslim. And there are other Muslims on the other end of the scale who, went and plowed into a bunch of people in Berlin the other day or whatever. And those people are hardline. And so this is the problem that Europe faces and the United States is facing, and that Donald Trump has been talking about, not in a very edifying way, I have to say, but nonetheless, he's been talking about it and opening up a debate. And that is screening. How do you screen? How do you screen? You create this enormous, war zone, this theater of war, and then you create this chaos. Some of these people, most of these people, frankly, are damn good people. They need a home. They need some hope and all the rest of it. But there are a few rotten apples, and the people that are here already, whatever we are, we need to be protecting. That's actually the first duty of government. So it's a quandary, isn't it? It's a real quandary.
It is, and it's we cannot deny it or not look at it from both sides, because both sides are valid. I mean, personally, I don't think the way you look and what you wear means you're any sort of Muslim. I mean, I grew up in the West. I went to school. I had other Muslim, and I had a Muslim friend who wore a veil. Does that make her more extreme than me?
I don't know. I would say possibly more conditioned, but that's another argument. Oh, I'm sorry.
No. I mean, it's an interesting point. I'd hate the suppression or of women in general. I want women to be strong and feel vital and all the rest of it. And I'd hate anybody to think that anybody in any faith or cultural society are doing things because they are conditioned.
I would say the same about.
And isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting that your perception of a woman who wears hijab is that she may be conditioned to wear it, and it's not her personal choice. See, that's interesting.
It's choice, Tazeen.
And what I find fascinating, and what we witnessed, and what we really hope to bring back and share, is on the ground when you have a white Christian volunteer, dressed in the way she chooses to dress, and when she meets a traditional hijab-wearing Syrian Muslim woman, what you experience between the two of them isn't a hijab or a bra top. What you just experience between them is humanity. And I think that really is the importance of why I did this film, which is all these conditionings and false evidence against realities that we keep choosing to engage with. Through all of that,
yes,
it's one human being.
Yeah, we have to find the common ground. I mean, at the end of the day, all these faiths are based in love and acceptance and peace. I mean, and they've been kind of warped and distorted, by men against men. That's the reality. I do believe that Islam is a faith of peace. It's not a faith of war, but it has been, in the same way. I mean, to be fair, I personally think that the whole reason the Middle East is on fire is because of Israel. I mean, the Brits and the Yanks basically decided to create the state of Israel after the Second World War, and ever since then, and you have to look at the number of dual national Congress members in the States. A huge proportion of them are dual nationals, Israeli and American citizens. So obviously they have Israel as at the center point of their interest, and therefore their foreign policy is dominated by their interest in maintaining and sustaining Israel. And yet Israel, the land that Israel was built on, is highly contentious because it's been owned and occupied by so many different groups, factions, cultures, and religions over the last 2, 3, 4 millennia. So how, it's an extremely complex thing. But at the end of the day, there were many in the the military in America who basically said, well, the only way we can protect Israel is to knock hell out of all the neighboring countries, install our own dictators, and basically control those regions, so we can then somehow end conflict, as long as we can control all the neighboring countries, all the people, whether it be Egypt or Iraq or Lebanon or Libya or Syria. I mean, there was a list of countries that they wanted to invade and depose the current leadership and basically put in their own control mechanism. That's what it's all about, really. It's about the protection of Israel, which is surrounded, if you like, by its enemies, and is constantly jousting, and prodding and poking. You only have to look at what they're doing with the Palestinian situation in regards to that, in order to be able to sort of justify their own existence, because that state was created artificially, if you like, because the Jews, if you like, have always been a nomadic tribe.
Pierce?
Yeah.
What state in the world was not created artificially?
Well, that's very true, Gary. That's very true.
Sorry, go on.
I'm grateful that you're holding a space, because what's interesting is Rabbi Jonathan Wittenberg, who we interviewed. There's a whole Jewish community in North London who serve and help beautifully many refugees and are very actively engaged. And again, what was interesting too through this particular documentary is how we do go into a history lesson. And ironically, it was the creation of the State of Israel and what happened to the collapse of the League of Nations, but effectively dished out human rights as we know it today. And what we start to see is the differentiation between human rights and citizenship rights. And that really comes home. I mean, I don't know if any of you managed to get to the jungle in Calais, but when you take that 20-minute journey back on the Eurostar, or for me, when I was coming back from Greece as well, the power of a passport.
Tazeen, explain what the jungle is, please, to our US audience, because actually that's the history books will give that quite a few paragraphs.
So the jungle was the refugee camp that was failed to be recognized as an official refugee camp by UNHCR.
Why did they go there?
Because that was the last destination for many refugees wanting to come into the UK. So they ended up in Calais because of its proximity to London.
Okay, so basically they were cut off by the English Channel.
Yeah. But they weren't.
Why did they want to go to the UK and not France? Why do they not want to stay in France?
That's an interesting question. And to the refugees I met and spoke to in France, and I asked them that question, why don't you want to settle here? Now, some of them did, and some of them chose to seek asylum there, but many didn't. And the reason why is because they don't have the language affiliation. They found many of them experienced the French to be pretty racist. I was there and they were tear gassing them every night. So they face a lot of hostility there. And the other reason is people want to go.
The French are no different to the English.
People want to go where they feel they belong.
Hold on, the French are no different to the English.
I disagree, Ollie. I disagree. I think London, as a multicultural melting pot, works better than probably any capital city in the world. Yeah. I mean,
English.
It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but we don't have the chronic ghettoism that exists in Paris, and we have areas of London that are dominated by certain cultures and religions, but people in the street tend to get on. People are polite and respectful. respectful towards each other, more so than they are in Paris or some of our European neighbours. I do think that the UK can pat itself on the back despite all its faults. We are, London is very much a huge melting pot of multiculturalism, and yet we're not all at war with each other all the time. We're not. London functions.
Yeah.
People are respectful towards each other. We do have a better grasp of identifying the common ground than the negative qualities.
Yeah.
And most of them speak English. They
Okay,
don't speak French.
we're coming up to a break. Thank you very much. That's great. We're going to be back second half. We've got a few sponsors to, Gary's probably got to go off and slaughter a chicken or something, and we'll a while, and I don't know, blimey. I suppose, yeah.
Hey, can I get a little privacy in here?
What are you doing to that chicken, Gary?
Gary, stop it.
Yeah.
Listen, we need to involve
Get out of
Andy
my room.
and Gary more as well. We're Ollie and we're terrible. We just rap on about. We've got to give our guests a bit more, our other people a chance.
Okay. Let's just remind everybody, you're listening to Revolution Radio. You probably heard that. And by the way, you know what? We could do with some money. We've got to run these servers, and that costs a few quid. It costs, I understand from Patrick Anglish. I was listening to his show earlier, and I understand that it costs $75 a day to run Revolution Radio, and that's not any staff cost, anything like that. That's just running the servers. So if you can donate, then actually we always ask our guests to donate.
Yeah. We don't pay them. We ask them for donations. That's wonderful.
They're giving their all, man. I mean, they're paying by their voices. That's what they.
We're here online getting donations, for God's sake.
See, Andy, you've gone down the well.
We're here on this program to raise a profile and get donations.
Exactly, that's right. We are. You're right.
Go
hopefully people find what we're saying intriguing and interesting enough to be able to,
Well, let's hope so, Piers.
Actually, we've heard very little from you. Talk more about what you've done with Taz's footage and.
What do you do this documentary? I mean, what do you?
I've constructed Taz's footage into one times 52-minute film, and we're going to make 3 52-minute films, 3 one-hour films of an extraordinary journey. And what's great about Taz is she comes kind of non-partisan. It's not reflective, it's not journalistic, and it's not aggressive.
It's humanity. It's about humanity.
Very much. Taz.
Common message in humanity, which I love, because I do believe that we are all interconnected and we are all one. Taz.
Absolutely. And I think if we look at the 3 episodes and how we've broken it down, we first explore why people turned up. And within that, we see the fears on both sides, those fleeing, so those who might die if they stay in their home countries or suffer oppression, and the fear of what those numbers coming in mean to people in the West, which resulted in votes like Brexit. So a twofold crisis, a refugee crisis, and
hold on,
as Andi beautifully puts it.
Taz, explain that, which resulted in things like Brexit.
So if we look at campaigns that preceded Brexit, campaigns like Nigel Farage's.
I think you're right. You're basically saying that the xenophobe card won Brexit, basically. I mean, you're kind of saying that, no?
Yeah, I mean, I'll share an intimate story with you. The day of the Brexit vote,
Hold on. Whoa. There are always intimate stories.
Let us share one then, Ollie.
No, I want you to, but I just want to precursor it by saying, you know what? There are so many, but yes, please do. Yeah.
Well, I was just shocked, and I walked down Cobham High Street the day of the vote, and it was the first time I'd had a racist attack.
This is the
genuinely really shocked me. Yeah,
somebody in Cobham High Street said, "Oi, go home, you horrible Muslim," or something.
Yeah.
Really?
I've heard a lot of that. I have to say.
That sickens me. That really sickens me.
I'd heard a lot of it, and I didn't believe it.
And you've experienced.
I'd heard about it, and I was like, okay, yeah, that happens,
but Tazeen, hold on, whoa, because yes, I know that, I know that, but when things have been held, I use my words carefully, in a certain direction for whatever period of time, there will be some kind of a bounce back, cause and effect. And I think what's happened, I'm not saying that it's right. But I think what's happened with many cases, and many of my friends, some of my Spanish friends in London, for example, who experienced similar stuff or heard about it, but there's been a lot of it about, there's no question about it. It has to be said that...
What's the point?
Okay, yeah, I'm trying to get the point out. There has been a lot of bounce back off the back of people, if you like, being suppressed from having had some kind of a say in what is, after all, their own ancestral culture. I mean, people do feel strongly about their ancestral cultures, whatever those ancestral cultures are. And so, yes, I know there's been this horrid, racism and blatant, but on the other hand, I think a lot of it has been just bounce back. It's a bit like, if you like, gay rights, were suppressed. Gay folks were suppressed for years and years and years and had no kind of respite. And suddenly they were, and now look at them. I mean, gay pride, my God, I mean, they're, it's all in the news. It's big time. And why not? They should celebrate the fact that they've been liberated. And that's what's going on. And that is just a natural cause and effect in a way, but unfortunately, we've seen it. But you could have.
Well, I mean, Ollie. I mean, to me, I mean, you say, all this sort of bigotry and xenophobia and sort of little tribal mentality. That was never why. I mean, to be fair, I have to say, I voted to leave, but it had nothing to do with any of what we're talking about. For me,
I agree.
It was all to do with finance. It was nothing to do with multiculturalism. I've got nothing against. I quite like living in a dynamic multicultural society. That is what Britain is, and it won't change. That is what it's going to be indefinitely now. We can't change that. We have to accept and embrace that. Why I voted to leave, not because of that, not because of closing our borders. That wasn't what it was all about for me. Unfortunately, there are a contingent within the UK who did vote for that, and there are some small-minded idiots around who will kind of vote with their mouths with that. But at the end of the day, that wasn't why I voted for Brexit. I voted because I think I see it as a cronyistic sort of completely corrupt capitalist sort of club of individuals who have isolated themselves and do business with each other and basically slap sanctions and tariffs on everybody else.
Okay, Tazeen,
you're probably one of the more educated minority. I mean, look, make no mistake, there were constituencies like Bradford. I mean, I was about to swear, but anyway, there are no white English in Bradford. It is Little Pakistan. That's what they call it. And they were all fearful of their bloody jobs. They were scared that the Poles were going to take it away because of the fear-mongering campaigns. Those such as Nigel Farage presented.
The wage has gone down as a result of Lisbon. It has gone down. The Polish wage. I mean, Piers, how much did your bathroom cost?
What? What are you talking about? I haven't had my bathroom replaced in years. I mean,
and who put it in? Poles.
So, it was a bunch of Poles actually. Yeah.
And you paid them what?
I can't remember. It was years ago.
I can, because you told me, and you paid something. I can't remember. It was either 40 or 60 quid a day. And when I would have done that kind of job, because I'm quite handy, I would have charged a lot more than that. But you wouldn't get away with it now. And so, no, sorry, actually, Tazeen, just to say that, yeah, wages have been suppressed. And in fact, CBR, just today, there was a story in
Yes, but until public discourse actually looks at your issues that you're talking about, yes, I empathise.
They didn't, did they?
Unemployment is, is high. I empathise with the fact that
it was a load of nonsense on both sides, but neither of them spoke about the real truth, in my opinion.
Ollie, let's bring in Gary and Andy a bit, because we're dominating.
Yeah. Let me address some of the things that Ollie is talking about here. Ollie, you are addressing a depression of wages in Britain.
Yes.
Based on the influx of refugees into the country. Is that correct?
Skilled refugees in this case. Yeah.
Well, they're not refugees. I mean, they're financial migrants.
Okay, well, yeah. See, that's why I'm trying to figure out the difference. Are we talking refugees?
Yeah, I mean, we've gone slightly off tack here. I mean, like, at the end of the day, Schengen and the freedom of movement within the EU means that people can work wherever they choose, and they do, and that means that some of them will work for less than some of the natives, which causes friction. But at the end of the day, what are we actually discussing here? Are we talking about the refugee crisis?
Whoa, Tazeen, to bring this back on track, what is the difference? Is it not the case that the refugee crisis has lost a great deal of sympathy because of the migration issue from the EU?
Can I say something here?
Yeah, go ahead, Andy.
Piers, thanks. As Taz's film and our film states, I think what's very important here is in the next 10, 15 years, Europe's mortality rate is going down, and there is not going to be a reason to employ people. We have to employ people from somewhere else. And as the film suggests, we may be missing a trick, because we're all getting Polish builders, Piers did, I did, blah, blah, blah.
Did you?
Of course I did, yes. Where the hell do you think my third floor came from, Ollie? It was a Polish Darius. Thank him so much. But this is it's rhetorical. We don't have a choice, because this influx is happening. We must embrace it, because, as the film says, we've got a big problem. We have a problem with migration. We have a big problem with mortality.
We also have a problem with radicalization. We do have a problem, and it has to be addressed. I mean, the fact is, there are madrasas popping up around the UK that are sponsored with Saudi Arabian money, preaching a sort of very radical Wahhabist sort of philosophy that a lot of young people are being indoctrinated by, and that's wrong. I mean,
yes,
I don't want to see a radicalization of a faith that is actually quite beautiful. In Islam,
Tazeen, should the UK tolerate Sharia law?
That's a very big question.
Wait, hang on, Ollie.
What sort of world? That's what I'm asking. What sort of world do you want to live in? What values do we as a society want to hold? Is it one of inclusivity and integration, which actually was what we witnessed at the time of the Prophet, who lived beautifully alongside his Jewish and Christian neighbours?
No, now you're talking opinions. And you're also...
That is an opinion. But having said that, I don't want to see radicalisation. I mean, I've got two small kids who I want to raise as Muslims, but also embracing the other.
I don't blame you. And
I tell you, can I just interject for a minute? I have friends in Birmingham. They are she's Jewish, and Judaism follows the feminine line. So she has installed her two sons in a Jewish school in Moseley. Now, it's recognized as one of the best schools in the neighborhood. Now, Moseley is predominantly Islamic, and the majority of the kids that go to this Jewish school are Muslims, and they all get along fine. And it just goes to show that,
that's nice.
you don't need, there can be a complete acceptance where both cultures and religions are exposed to each other's faiths. It's a Jewish school which is predominantly Muslim, with predominantly Muslim children going there, and yet it functions fine. So explain that to me.
We're coming to a real crux of the issue here, though, because I'm going to say I don't agree with faith schools. I don't believe in children being told one faith is better than another. To be honest, I don't see the point. It doesn't make sense.
And that's why it saddens me, because whilst we hear so much news about radicalization and madrasas, are we hearing the same amount of news on initiatives like the Inclusive Mosque Initiative, which has gained so much momentum? Have we heard news
of it? Why should
have we heard about the interfaith work that's going on?
Doesn't sell papers though, Naz. It does,
Hold on.
That's the trouble.
Enough,
whoa, please. I get frustrated when I hear the Pope being publicized every 2 weeks or whatever, if not every week, on the front page of the Telegraph. It's like, why? I don't mind. I don't care what religion it is. I just think that I'm not saying that faith is a bad thing. Not at all. I think it's beautiful. I think religion ruins it. I really get fed up with religion given any prominence whatsoever. And so I would say, no, I don't want Sharia law included in the UK and in my old culture. But I also don't want the Protestant religion. I don't want a head of the Church of England or a head of all faiths Charles wants to be, whatever. I don't want any of that. I just want people to be allowed to conduct their own private affairs in the way that they want to do it, in a way that doesn't hurt anybody else. And I don't see why we have to give religion any prominence.
It's a contentious point, but it's a valid point. I mean, religion has done a lot of to divide us all. We are the enlightened ones who are trying to bring everybody together and see the commonality rather than.
I think Gary might have something to say about this.
But I do feel there is a convergence.
Tazeen, Gary, what do you have to say about this, sir?
About whether or not we should allow any sort of religion to have any prominence in the governance of the people?
Yes.
We in America, at least the thinking people in America, like to have this idea of a wall between church and state. And I think that is a beautiful, beautiful idea. There's way too many people over here and all over the world who are getting confused on that point, because there's the problem with religions is that pure atheists are the most atheistic people out there, but non-atheists are generally about 99.7% as atheistic as most atheists are, because out of the 2,700 religions out there, most people who hold to a religion deny the truth of 2,699 of those. So we really need to keep religion out of governance.
Gary,
otherwise we're just going to be at war forever.
Gary, I entirely agree with you, and I'd just like to bring this back to Taz's film, because this is what essentially we're talking about this evening. Is we can hypothesize and we can debate the refugee crisis politically anytime we want, and until the cows come home. But when you see this film, you will see a woman who's totally non-partisan. She is not part of a media organization. She is just there as a single entity. And she is going there to grab Vox Pops. And the Vox Pops that she grabs are, we're desperate.
Sorry, what's that word you're using?
Just interviewing, people, random interviews with real people.
These are sound bites. Sound bites, Gary. Sound bites.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
and Taz went and she spent 3 weeks collecting sound bites. And these sound bites are resonant because they're essentially saying, we don't even want to be here. The situation that we've created, the situation that we collectively have created, is no one's. It's not agreeable for anyone. It's not agreeable to us in Europe. It's not agreeable to Merkel. It's not agreeable to Farage and us and Greece and Turkey. And it's not agreeable to the Syrians.
Yep.
So the point is, what Taz has done is she is kind of questioning the situation from a very, very human perspective. And we have to address that. And at that point,
Andy, whoa.
What platform have you got for release of this footage? And where have you got people who are going to who are going to put this out for you? And
no. Hold on, Taz. I've got a question for Taz. What are we going to do?
That's a big question, Ollie. I mean, the world's problems are a bit complicated.
Come on. We've got 40 minutes. What are we going to do?
What are we going to do about all this? I've got a few ideas.
Taz, you first.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So my intention was to witness what we saw, to share it with as many people as possible, and through that sharing to inspire. And what I mean by that is if through watching the films, we open a heart to think and enter a curiosity, and within that curiosity, open up a deeper connection with each other, that would be wonderful.
That's a really beautiful thing to say. Thank you for saying that. And I'm totally in agreement with that. We have to reach for the commonality. We have to find the common spirit that lies within all of us. We are all part.
Look, whoa. You're getting all esoteric. Right. What are we going to do?
Well, I think we all have to sit.
Taz, you failed. Gary.
Oh, wait. Am I going to be called
thrown in the deep end, Gary? You're going to get thrown in the deep end.
I'm going to tell you.
Wow.
Right.
You're asking us to solve the world's problems.
Haven't you thought about this?
Come on then, Ollie. What would you do? What's your bloody solution then if you're so clever?
Yeah, shut up.
All right. So,
Ollie,
one of the prevailing theories.
Let Gary speak. Go on. One of the prevailing theories.
One of the prevailing theories for the reason behind the existence of the conflict in Syria is that natural gas pipeline, right?
No.
Yeah,
so,
I agree. It's all to do with global finance.
That's
right.
Sorry, yes.
Money and
Israel,
fossil fuels, and all of that. And the moneyed interests are doing their very best to keep regular people stressed out and using fossil fuels, which degrades our environment, which adds to our overall level of stress here.
Yeah.
And when people are stressed out, their inclination to charity plummets, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So a big part of what we need to do
get on with it. Sorry.
Is stop the various public treasuries from being robbed to the extent that they are.
Well, you're talking about war profiteering.
No,
right.
He's not. There's that, and the fact that we're
unfair trade.
Look, I mean, there are countries. Portugal, the whole of Portugal has existed on renewable energy.
Barry, I want him to clarify. What are you talking about? War profiteering, unfair trade, or what?
You're just being deliberately
standard of living for most people, really.
Yeah, sure.
Is what I'm talking about. Raising minimum wage, or the minimum income.
This has to be on a global scale. This has to be on a global scale. We're thinking about minimum wage in the UK or in, I don't know, France, Germany, whatever, in the United States. But we're not thinking about it in Aleppo.
No, I mean, Trump is not. Trump is not going to be right because he's a capitalist. He's an old school, capitalist
Andi.
I love the fact that he's got Elon Musk on board. That's great. He has got some great people on board who are, modern, thinkers. They are going to sort of be progressive in terms of their approach. Very few, yeah. And let's wait. All we can do is wait and see what happens. But at the end of the day, there's no reason why we shouldn't be going into renewable energy. We've got completely the wrong philosophy. This horrible materialism that we live in right now. These meccas, like Westfield, where people graduate and spend. It's just horrible. I hate it. I don't want that. We should be decentralizing.
Nobody has any idea what you're talking about right now.
Okay.
All right.
What is this place you're talking about?
Andi, I would like your opinion, please. What do we need to do?
Okay, I think Trump will have a big problem with the other 27 countries of NATO. I think that we're in for a rocky ride. I think in context of what we're talking about with Taz's film, I think we need to look at this film and we need to see this as a humanitarian problem that is essentially non-political. Because the bottom line is these people don't even want to be here.
Yes, exactly. They don't. They're here because they're desperate, and that's it.
Yes. And I think at that point, it then becomes a humanitarian as opposed to a political problem. And that's the reason why Taz went out and, please watch the film when it comes out. But that's what she exposes. And, all we need to do is replace them back to where they came.
Yeah, you're right. You are right. And I'll tell you what, this is my answer, by the way. What we need to do is we need to set up a UN, a reformed UN of some kind, whatever, that actually, instead of encouraging war and war profiteering, which is what it does, and yeah, I'm struggling over that word tonight, and yeah, I have had some wine and it's been quite good. But what we need to do is we need to have a UN that actually sets aside a massive fund to rebuild these countries which we have systematically ruined over the course of certainly since.
We need to stop war, full stop. Just pull out all our soldiers. Yeah, we
need to change the placemen. The Tony Blairs of this world are still running free. But
can we address the CIA influence over radicalized Islam? The ISISs and the Al Qaedas. Let's face it. I don't believe that Bin Laden was killed in northern Pakistan when they said he did. Yet they made a film about it and sort of glorified this Navy SEAL mission to destroy Bin Laden, this Dr. Evil character. I think there's so many lies prolificated in the mainstream media now.
You're right. Tazeen, are we being lied to? For example, 9/11. It seems to me that everything since then has just been a complete lie. And 9/11 itself is so dubious. And I've done a lot of research into it myself. And what we have to hold the establishment accountable before we can possibly hope to achieve anything humanitarian. No?
Yes.
Yes, I agree to everything said, actually. And for 9/11, it's pretty well documented. I don't really need to share it in this space. There's plenty of information on it available online.
There is.
The truth behind it. I think, simply turning up the way you guys have done this evening to ask the questions that are being asked, for me is the biggest start. My choice and decision to turn up led to a lot of unveilings of fear, and delving into a deeper truth looking back into a history lesson on how human rights was created, the difference between human rights, citizenship rights, and the importance of meeting the other and not blaming the other.
Can I just Can I just mention what Boris Johnson said again? I've mentioned this on the show before, but I think it's pertinent and worth re-mentioning, is the fact that he said he was asked about arms sales to Saudi Arabia by the UK, and he basically said, well, if we don't do it, somebody else will. That was his response. That was his response.
He is British Foreign Secretary, isn't he?
Yeah, he's the Foreign Secretary now, and he was asked, why do we sell so many arms to Saudi Arabia? Well, if we don't do it, somebody else will. That's not an excuse. That's not an excuse. We should not be basing our finance and our wealth on completely immoral judgments. That are
incredible.
Can I share something from the documentary? Because ironically, Saudi Arabia and Qatar and some of the others, and also here in the UK and the West, all of these countries are the ones who have taken the least numbers of refugees in. Why? And the fund that you mentioned before, this alternative UN fund, I would love Saudi Arabia to be its largest contributor. I think they have the resources to be.
Of course.
Well, why is that, Tazeen? Why?
Because they're the ones sponsoring Al Qaeda and ISIS and all these groups in it's all by proxy. At the end of the day, it's the West who benefit from having these radical groups causing havoc in the Middle East. Because it means that they can then sell arms to everyone and proliferate the conflagration. This is what it's all about. It's like, Bin Laden used to work for the Americans in Afghanistan when the Russians were occupying Afghanistan. The Bin Laden was a CIA asset, for crying out loud, and he remained so. He was always a CIA asset, and he was demonized and turned into this Dr. Evil boogeyman orchestrating global terrorism. I mean, it's absolutely farcical. It's farcical. Right. I mean, anybody with an ounce of intelligence will recognize that the Bin Laden story is a farcical.
Sorry.
And I mean that with all sincerity. And we've been, and when the government want to proliferate an idea, they ram it down your throat. Look at the way they're ramming down Russian intervention in the American elections right now. They are ramming it down our throats. It's like, if you say it enough, people will begin to believe it. And it's the same with Bin Laden. You make films about it, you get Hollywood to make dramatizations about it. It's indoctrination. We are being lied to on a massive scale. And this is why this is what's so fundamentally important to realize. The degree of indoctrination is massive.
Sorry.
Okay. I mean, would anybody agree with me? I don't know. I mean, to me, I just read The Guardian, I read The Telegraph, I read The Independent, I read whatever paper you've got out there, The Washington Post, the New York Times. They're all lying to us on a prolific scale, and it's all to do with this agenda that they have in place, which is this sort of globalist agenda of world domination.
Andy, do you like conspiracy theories, mate?
This is not a conspiracy theory. This is fact.
It's a
conspiracy theory. Yes, I'm intrigued about them, but this is not one. And Piers is completely right on this point. And I think that's the reason why what Taz has done.
Start being told that what's going on is fine, and actually Russia is the enemy. That's what we're being told. And anything else is a conspiracy theory.
Well, if you read John Pilger, I think he offers.
Oh yeah, I do.
Very valuable contribution on where we are with Russia. And what I find interesting about Trump is how he's brought in this new Americanism versus globalism, which is why I think his era or leadership is going to be a pivotal one, actually, for humanity.
I agree. I don't know what he's all about. I have no idea. At the moment, I don't like the guy very much, but it remains to be seen.
I think he was a wild card.
Now, but what's Trump going to do with it, do you think? Hello?
What the hell? That sounds like somebody filling a glass of wine or something.
Who was taking a pee there? Was that you, Piers?
No.
Wasn't it?
No. But no, I mean, it is important to realise just how much we are being indoctrinated on the day. I can't watch. I mean, if I turn on the mainstream media now, if I watch the BBC News, I mean, I love the BBC for its documentaries, its wildlife documentaries, and some of its drama. It's fantastic. But if you watch the BBC now, it is so prescribed. You know, it's the propaganda is in overdrive, and it actually makes me feel
Piers,
it makes me feel physically sick. You know,
I have to agree with you, because meeting many.
Sorry, we're all talking over each other. We've got to.
Sorry, Piers. Your point is this, and it's so valid. The question to ask Taz is, why is her independent film so valid? And there is a very relevant point to this.
Okay, that's a.
Well, let them make the point. Let them make the point.
Yes, what you talk about is really pertinent, actually, to one of the issues that came up. First of all, getting into the camps was really difficult because the media was very heavily controlled. To get into Greece and the refugee camps there, I had to go through rigmaroles to get permits from the authorities. The second thing is just on the media. Many of the volunteers who turned up did so out of pure curiosity about what they were seeing in the media. Because on the one hand, they were being told they're all terrorists, immigrants, but yet on the other hand, they're seeing swarms and bodies just being washed up. So
yeah, they were there for humanitarian reason. You know, they have a desire to help, and that's it. You know,
Tazeen,
desire to help because of your point that you've just made.
Yeah.
About the fact that they felt so confused with what they were hearing that they needed to turn up and see it for themselves. And what was interesting is the change. There was an American guy, for example, Eric, a volunteer in one of the camps in Greece. And he shared with us how his whole perception of these people had changed. He was frightened when he turned up into the camp. He didn't know what to expect. But by the end of it, he was happy to leave his girlfriend sleep in any one of their camps.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what, for me, came through in doing this work.
Yeah, people aren't hateful, angry, horrible, nightmarish, fundamentalist, with Semtex strapped to their. This is not what people are. The majority of people just want to have a decent life. That is the majority of people, and we are so spun. I mean, to be fair, I actually, and this is a radical train of thought, I personally think a lot of the attacks that have been demonstrated in Europe have probably been false flag events. This is how badly warped I think the world is, and that's just my personal opinion, and you don't have to adhere to what I'm saying. But I actually think that this idea of this fundamentalist Islamic kind of nightmare, I think it's being prolificated by the West for their divide and conquer, auto ab KO, get it out there. That's what they're doing. That's what I think, anyway. And
the American Jewish journalists would probably support you in that opinion.
Well, there you go. You see, I'm not alone. I think we are being so chronically manipulated.
We are.
Having said that, I think there are probably some stupid.
Oh yeah, I mean there are fundamentalist Islamics. There are fundamentalist Jews. There are fundamentalist Christians. There are fundamentalists in any given faith, but the majority of people in any given faith are peace-loving and want a decent life for themselves and their families, and that's the reality, and that's the commonality that you're trying to touch on in your documentary, and I thoroughly look forward to seeing it, and I hope that it gets syndicated throughout everywhere. And have you got a backer for it?
Andi, how can people see this? How will they be able to see this?
We are pitching to Al Jazeera right now, and it's going to be out online in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And please watch it, because this is a perspective which is, essentially unique. It doesn't come from a journalistic; it comes from a humanitarian point of view, and it's poignant. It's hard hitting. You'll cry. You will.
And if I can share, sort of. I mean, look, I'm going to be brutally honest, sort of Andi and some of the other editors on it. What really touched me, actually, was how You know, they did it out of the generosity of spirit. You know, this was self-funded. There wasn't that much money to it.
Good on you for having the guts to go and do it. I mean, it takes people like you, humanitarians, to go out and actually literally you know, take themselves out of their comfort zone and go. I mean, well done, Taz. Well done. Wow, what a brave and brilliant thing to do.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm touched by that. I really am.
If I can just share, the lesson for me coming back is my own responsibility, really. So how I turn up to vote, how I help the local Syrians that are now coming in small numbers within Surrey, how I engage in conversation at the school gates with some of what you've shared, Pierce, about how heavily mind control we are. It's just, what am I responsible for as I walk in this body? And I think some of those lessons really opened up actually through the experience.
Yeah, all we can do is try and make one little bit of difference, and that's what you've done, and I admire you for it tremendously. You know, we incrementally, you know, if we can all just sort of get together and have a greater level of understanding, then the world will change for the better.
Taz, I've got a question. What are you doing online? I mean, social media. I mean, how useful is that?
Social media. You know what? I'm going to let Andi answer this because he came up with a beautiful term for what social media's done.
Well, social media is everything on this, only because it's a non-partisan view, and we have to really invigorate social media because it's a channel, and we can invigorate this totally independently. And I think what's important about what Taz has done is, as you'll see when watching the film, it comes from...
No such thing as a non-partisan view. But
yes, there is.
No. There's nothing wrong with that.
No, there is.
No. And actually, partisan is not the right word either, because the partisans were really good people who were defending what they, you know, their culture. And
what are you talking about?
They were. Well, sectarian view.
No.
Ollie, you're just you're generalising, man. What are you talking about? Are you talking about any specific place?
We all have sectarian views.
Ollie, it's a non-partisan perspective from this film.
No, I agree. Listen to what Andi and Taz are saying.
Look,
this is very fundamentally important from a spiritual. Listen. What are we here for, if anything? Why are we even alive?
We're here to take selfies.
No, I personally believe we're here for spiritual development, and you know, we build up. Yeah, I am a hippie, and we build up karma and
California to call in and tell us
why. Why do you think people, you know, flagellate themselves and beat themselves? It's a karmic battle that we're under.
Gary, now. Do you flagellate yourself in your basement with your chickens?
Only if they've been good. They've really got to put out a lot of eggs to earn that.
Gary, you dominate the conversation because you know, Ollie and I are just despicable in terms of how we love our own voices. And,
I don't know. Yeah.
Go on, Gary,
I will say that Romeo and Juliet did not love each other as much as the two of you love the sound of your own voice. This is
here.
So that's on the show.
We are dreadful. I apologise to you all, Andi, Taz, Gary. We are awful.
I apologise. Somebody has to hold this show together.
What do you mean?
Right.
Rubbish. We've got some really good guests on tonight who we could have allowed a lot more airtime if we hadn't been so...
And we're grateful for the airtime. We are absolutely grateful. But I think, you know, watch Taz's film, listen to her quote-unquote non-partisan humanitarian perspective, and we will see that this is a problem.
How can people get in touch with you, Taz, and see this film?
So we have a website, humanitiesheart.com. We're also on Facebook. Just to answer directly your question about social media, it was a key transformer in our project. It connected, and it is connecting many choosing to turn up and serve within this crisis. And yeah, so through the website, humanitiesheart.com, through Facebook, and we'll see how the commissioning process goes next week.
Well, let us know, yeah? You will, let us know. And also, if you want to come back on, if there's anything that you feel strongly about, you want to talk to us about, then you obviously, you've got some authority on the subject, and we'd be interested to hear. So please, stay in touch.
I really love that philosophy, though. I'd just like to just reiterate that. I think this is what we really need to all kind of understand. Humanity there is a commonality within humanity that we can all identify with, regardless of our background or faith or culture. There is enough common ground for us all to be able to communicate and get along. There is enough, but the powers that be exist through divide and conquer. That is how they operate. That is how they've operated for millennia. They know that it's a tried and tested recipe. So they pervert religion, they pervert culture, they pervert difference in order to create this feeling of hatred and difference and partisanship, and therefore we've got to rebel against that. We've got to love each other and understand that we are all part of a collective consciousness that will ultimately shape our destiny. If we choose to come together as one in love, we can co-create a future that will be lovely. They have no power over that. They know that collective consciousness is the key, and that's why they so heavily manipulate it. Really, honestly, we have the power.
Piers, tell us about David Wilcock.
I don't need to do that.
Tell us about your David Wilcock experience. Go on.
David Wilcock experience.
Yeah, go on.
Well, no, but you're trying to mock me now. I mean, what I'm actually saying makes perfect sense. I mean, it's about the understanding of what reality really is. And I will be fair, Islam is one of the faiths that really grasped this from the early stages. If you look at their design and art and architecture, it's all very geometric, and it's all about shapes and geometry. And actually, that's what the universe is all. That's the fundamental basis of reality. The early Islam really gets it. That this is what it's all about. It's about sacred geometry. It's about this understanding of maths in reality that is the basic construct of reality. And believe you me, Islam, if you look into it, with its design and all the rest of it, the Moors, the ancient Islamic, they got it. They really did. As do
maths and stuff like that, and they were good with water. I'll tell you, in Spain, all the irrigation and the rice, the paella, for example, off the back of it, that's all because of the Arabs. And the Alhambra, if you go there and see that palace in Granada, it's the most amazing building I've seen in my life. Absolutely gorgeous. And that was the last stand for the Arabs in Spain, but 14 late.
Yeah, but you see, Arab culture and Islam is all based in a lot of truth. They do get it. I mean, the philosophy, it really is about the universe is based on maths principles and geometry, and ancient Islam really gets this, as do a lot of faiths.
There's a special number. It's not pi, but it's like that. And
it's the sacred ratio. The sort of, it's built into. I mean, Da Vinci knew about it. There's so the pentagram, the Vitruvian Man is a pentagram. It's all to do with sacred geometry. It's about the divine ratio in humanity and all things, Fibonacci, all that sort of stuff. This is what reality is based on. The universe is basically a sphere. The sphere is the only shape in which you can encapsulate all potential, all possibility. It's the only physical shape where infinitesimal possibility can play out, and it's all to do with geometry. And you basically create a sphere. You add consciousness and free will to the recipe, and you create a platform which can play itself out. The tree of life is all born out of this philosophy. The branches of a tree, they extend towards areas of influence, light, things that will, push branches out towards the heavens. That is how the universe works. It's about consciousness. It is about consciousness. What are you doing? It's about
I'm trying to kill you. I'm trying to kill you.
No, but don't kill me. I mean, consciousness is the key. Consciousness and free will. This is very fundamental, dude. Because if we collectively,
I know it is. I know we're on revolution.
If we have a collective consensus, we create our destiny and we create our reality. I don't know. Would you agree, Andy and Taz?
Yeah, completely, totally. Taz?
Absolutely. And I think, just witnessing the relational space of where refugee and volunteer come together, we really see that generosity of spirit flowing through. And I end you all with a quote from Rumi, Persian poet Rumi. He says, "It's not our duty to seek for love. Our duty is to seek all the barriers that we have built against it. And at the end of the day, it's all sacred space. And those all geometry you beautifully described just enhance those universal energetic laws."
It does. And ancient Arab faith did it so well. They totally grasp this, and it's prolificated in their art all over the place. Islam is so misunderstood, as are so many faiths. They've been bastardized by the media and modern propaganda, and I hate it all. I do not want the world to be divided. I want the world to be united, and there's no reason why it can't be. And if we all rebel against this indoctrination of hate, then we can come together and co-create a reality that will be beautiful. And that's the truth.
Jo Cox, in one of her final tributes, she said, "There is far more that we have in common that unites us than what divides us." And we've dedicated the whole of this film actually to her and the thousands and thousands of others who have died in the name of truth.
Well done, and well done for being so brave and doing something real, being proactive and actually going out in the world and talking to people and finding out for yourself rather than listening to the mainstream media, for your sense of reality. You decided to rebel against that, and you went out there and you did it, and you spoke to people, and I have the greatest respect for that.
Yeah, damn right.
I really do.
Yeah.
Well, I have the deepest gratitude to actually all of those who have turned up, all those refugees who took extraordinary risks, all of the volunteers that I met. Really, I mean, these people are extraordinary, what they go through and the trauma that they live through with the refugees. And also my team, I mean, they all donated their time. The web developer did it for free. Her mother was Syrian. Andi gave me extremely favourable mates rates to get this across the line because, the generosity of spirit that has come through the Syrian crisis, I believe, is the strength of humanity.
Tazeen, tell me, the border now on Greece and Macedonia, what is the deal there? I mean, is it still the way it was just 6 months ago with basically camps set up there and the dead end. Is that it still?
What they seem to have done is put most of the refugees into camps, but and why it's really important to talk about what's still going on is people have hit compassion fatigue, which you've all alluded to before, and people are forgetting about these hundreds and thousands rather of refugees.
And during the winter
if we count Jordan, Lebanon, and elsewhere, these millions that are stuck in these makeshift camps. Some of them don't even meet basic humanitarian needs. In terms of the Macedonian and Greek border specifically, in honesty, I don't know. I haven't witnessed it. I think what you're referring to is probably back in April, if I'm not mistaken, of last year. But most on the Greek side, the authorities took most of the refugees and put them into these camps. But these camps, some of them are going into their second year of living in these camps. And again, it's also interconnected with what we talked about before. What the whole thing highlights is the power of a passport. And without citizenship rights, not human rights, citizenship rights, fucked.
Yeah, so right.
That's very interesting.
It's just it's not going to improve. That's the truth. That's the problem. The reality is that this situation is not improving in the short term. I mean, it isn't, is it? Nothing is improving. It's only getting worse. And resentment in Europe, one way and another, is getting worse as well. Fed up with politicians.
I don't believe half of you. You cannot believe what you read in the papers. You know, we talk about the indoctrination we're under. Why do we read the papers anymore?
But the fact is, Piers, the fact is, people do, and
well, they do.
The people are voting, right wing, or basically they're voting desperation. I think in most cases, and I don't think Le Pen's going to make it, but the Wilders might in the Netherlands.
No, I mean it won't be this fascist sort of uprising.
It's practically gone.
It won't be this. It'll be finance that will ultimately end the EU. The banks are all bankrupt. I mean, that's the reality.
This show has to end. It's going to end right now. I'm really sorry.
Is it?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to have left.
No.
Thank everybody. Thank everybody.
Such a horridly pragmatic note. I'm just a bit worried. Tazeen, Ahmad, thank you so much, and Andi Reiss for your documentary. And as soon as it is somewhere, let me know. And
Gary, I can only apologise that we talk too much. We will give you the whole show next week. It's your show.
I can't give you any outro music because I don't know that it works properly because my rig for some reason is not working tonight, but I can give you chickens instead. And that's a special thanks to Gary Branson for being our special chicken correspondent in Chicken Land.
Chicken Land.
Okay. Ciao.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Taz. It was really nice to talk to you. Taz, what an amazing girl. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio.